Remember to weigh in on today's topic, brothers and sisters, and please stick around after the video to hear an important message from our sponsor. Well, hello, my brothers and sisters of the Nerd Nation. I, as always, am Jim, here to bring you another one of our weekly public service announcements of the Nerd Nation, and I do apologize for missing last week. I was a little bit busier than usual. I did an interview via Skype with Everything One Piece. The link to that is in the description down below, should you care to check it out. And I also appeared on a few-hour live stream on Enrico Zero's channel. So, needless to say, I was a bit busy, but it is what it is. But ultimately, today's topic is one I've been wanting to tackle for a little while now and really didn't kind of know how to go about it, but I feel as if I have an objective enough point of view that I can talk about death in manga, in anime. Is it necessary? Is it not? Is it overdone? Is it underdone? And I'm going to give you a couple of examples of where I'm at with my limited knowledge in this particular medium of entertainment. Now, keep in mind that I've watched thousands of movies, watched hundreds of shows, read hundreds of novels, thousands of comic books, and although I am fairly new to manga and anime, entertainment-wise, I have a pretty good picture, or I guess a pretty good idea of kind of what's out there and what's going on. Now, first of all, and I'm going to go and use as examples for both sides of the coin, I'm going to use One Piece because I have a good body of work with that. I'm almost 300 chapters into it, so I have a good amount of it under my belt. And then the other side of the coin, I'm going to go and take Shingeki no Kyojin, Attack on Titan, and just kind of talk about both. Now, first off, I would like to talk about with One Piece, for instance. And I don't know if it's like this with all shonen manga or just a lot of that type of manga to begin with. I'm not really sure because in Toriko and Naruto, I don't think I'm far enough in to really gauge and get a good idea of things. But the one thing that I can tell you is that when you don't ever kill anybody, like for the most part Oda doesn't ever kill anybody, that's what everyone has told me anyway, unless of course it's in a flashback, there's really no risk-reward system. There's no weight to a sacrifice that someone makes. Let me give you an example. In Arlong Park, Nami's struggle became that much more profound and heartfelt when you saw the flashback and you saw her mother get shot in the face, her adopted mother, and you saw her at the gravesite, and you saw and then felt her pain and her struggle because of that loss. And you saw that even with that loss, she still continued to go and do what she thought was right for the greater good, even though she was shunned by her own town, by her own people, by her own sister. And that, for me, carried a great emotional weight because there was loss. I teared up when I read and saw in the manga, or read in the manga and saw in the anime, Usopp's background and what happened and what kind of drove him to being the storyteller slash liar, I guess, that he is, and the loss, of course, of his mother, and then the loss of his father, not dead, but of course being gone. Those things for me, there's an emotional pull that happens after you go and you read or you experience something like that because you feel that loss. Now then you go and you go to the one of the longest arcs that I read, which was the Alabasta arc, and you have a character, Pell the Falcon, we all know, and this is a sore spot with many people, but I just want to bring this up as an example. Pell the Falcon was presumed, first of all, he was introduced fairly early on in the arc, so although he was a kind of an enjoyed character, he wasn't a so beloved character that you'd had for so long that you felt like, oh my god, the world is ending, you killed off one of the main Straw Hats, When he went and took and had that wonderful flashback in that moment as the time bomb was ticking down and flew it up, and then you could see his commitment and his love for Vivi and his love for the family and for his country, right? And he was this protector. And then he goes and he flies off into the sunset and gets blown up. But then 10 chapters later, we see that he didn't get blown up. For me, it takes away all the emotional weight that happened 10 chapters before, and I feel as if I was lied to, cheated, and as if I was duped. Because I was duped into feeling for this character and the loss that everyone was going to experience and him and the sacrifice that he was going to give, but then he didn't really sacrifice anything. He just got knocked out and had to go see a doctor, and he's fine. And he was in the midst of what we can assume would be a small or medium-sized nuclear blast. anything that takes out 3 square miles, as that was claimed to be, I would assume, is probably of some type of nuclear nature. I'm not a nuclear physicist. I don't know. And what I'm saying here, before anybody jumps and breaks out the pitchforks and the torches and says, oh no, but Jim, Oda says that he does this so he can always leave this door open and this character can always come back, and that's fine. I'm not saying that he has to kill off every character. I'm not even saying that he has to kill off a lot of characters. I'm saying that if you are going to make it appear as if a character has died, you cannot, 99% of the time, in my opinion, bring the character back. It takes away from what you did when you tried to pull on my emotional heartstrings and make me feel for the loss of a character that wasn't really a loss. Okay? That's the bottom line. That's absolutely what it is. That's not even something that's debatable. That's what's being done. It's inducing an emotion from you, or attempting to induce an emotion from you from reading or watching that, and then slapping you in the face and insulting your intelligence 10 or 20 or 50 chapters later and saying, yeah, you thought that character was dead, and I know you shed some tears over it, but fuck you, I'm back. And that I don't agree with. If you don't want to kill characters, fine, don't kill them. But don't go and pretend to kill them all the time. Because I've gotten a bunch of different messages and comments about, well, how come you don't think this character's dead now, but you think this one is? Because of you. Everyone has commented and told me, well, Oda doesn't really kill anybody. In flashbacks, maybe, but other than that, he doesn't really kill anybody, you know? And I think I've heard that 1 or 2 characters die in all of One Piece. And I don't even know if that's final because One Piece isn't finished. Now, I'm certainly not busting on One Piece or being negative about it at all. I love the series. I absolutely love it. But I use that as an example because whether it's in One Piece or Toriko or Naruto or Hunter x Hunter or any other manga or anime that I decide to read or watch, when you make me feel a certain way for a character that there's that loss, and then go and bring that character back down the road, it is like a slap in the face. That is my personal opinion on it. And it really is just kind of a fact when you think about it, because it does insult the reader's intelligence. We're telling you one thing and wanting you to believe and trust in us, but then we're expecting you to be foolish enough to believe that over and over again, while we come back later on and then go and say, nope, I'm back. Now, the other example that I'd like to use is Attack on Titan, because Attack on Titan is the exact opposite. In my opinion, in Attack on Titan, they kill too many fucking people. Attack on Titan, for those of you that don't know, it's humanity's last stand, and there's basically this one giant walled city. I believe in the anime they give some numbers, and I want to say it's about maybe 1.5 million people that are there, if that. So we're not talking a ton of people. I live next to Chicago, and Chicago has 3 million within the city, and I think 7 million in the greater Chicagoland area. So basically, we're talking about like a portion of downtown Chicago is all that's left on Earth, right? And then the rest is being devoured by these giant man-eating titans. Okay, they got freaky, weird, lots of teeth and freaky faces. In Attack on Titan, just when you get to meet a character, and for instance, anybody who's read the manga or watched the anime, when you go and you meet Levi's squad, for instance, and they're introduced and you're starting to get to know and feel for these characters and thinking, well, this is cool. We're going to get to see these guys perform, right? The very first time you see them in action, they all get wiped out. Sorry, spoiler alert for those that don't know. But my point is that they kill anybody and everybody. The first time the wall gets breached, and then they go to the hole, and a few months later, and they tell you about what happens, they sent like the government there sent like 250,000 people, because they couldn't feed them all, out to go and reclaim the wall, okay, which basically was like, hey, this is going to be controlled genocide, and those people died. You just got rid of 20% of your population, and say half of those are male, or probably more, but whatever, just say half of those are male. 10% of the sperm that can reproduce and make more humans to make more humanity, you just sent to die because you didn't want to worry about a food shortage, you know? So that being the other end of the spectrum, it kind of bothers me because it happens too much. Many times, just as a character starts to get introduced or just gets to be fleshed out and become fun, and you're starting to get to feel and identify with that character, they just kill the character in a gruesome way. So that isn't something I particularly agree with either. So I guess what I'd like to do here, and I'm going to wrap this up, I would like to hear everybody's thoughts, of course, in the comments down below. I'm sure there's going to be some vehement arguments either way, and that's fine. Just keep it somewhat civil, you know. And but my point is that through all I've seen and read throughout the years, I've found that the best and the happiest median for me is that somewhere middle of the road. You don't kill off a ton of characters, but occasionally when there has to be that risk-reward system, occasionally when the group goes out on this particular dangerous journey or task and they wind up completing that task or journey, yes, that's great, they got the reward, but the risk is that you may lose somebody along the way, and you in fact do lose somebody along the way. Somebody's mortally wounded, somebody's killed, somebody's sister dies, somebody's brother, you know what I mean? That to me is when it's done well. You enjoy and you like the character, and for instance in The Walking Dead, they killed off a mainstay, big fan-loved character in Herschel at the season break, at the mid-season finale for this season. Although I loved the character and I hated to see him go, I thought that it was necessary to go and to show that there was actually some kind of loss in this struggle between these two camps, and that, you know, you can't just come out of a war or a battle to the death with guns and knives and everything else completely unscathed. I'm not saying, again, that we need to kill off any main characters or that I'm for or against just the willing slaughter of many of the innocents or just keeping it completely PG or G or Disney Channel-like. But I mean, even in Disney movies, characters die. So my point is let's find a good happy median, and that's kind of what winds up being my favorite type of show or book to read, manga, comic, movie, what have you, where there is some risk for the reward that you get. So that's all I have here today. But remember, brothers and sisters, try to keep it clean. Let me hear what your thoughts are in the comments down below. Weigh in. Let's talk about it. What do you think about death in manga and anime? And especially, in particular, you can use the examples that I did or use your own. That's fine. I only use those examples because I believe that I have enough of a body of work that I have read and watched in those series that I can make a decent assumption on what's to come. And if the trend stays the same, I can pretty much see where they're kind of going, you know, as far as series-wise. So feel free to hit the thumbs up, the like button if you should think that I deserve it, and subscribe if you haven't done so already. We will look forward to catching all of you in the next Fun Nation.
This week's PSA has been brought to you in part by Arlong's Bullets. When you have to shoot an ex-Marine with a questionable haircut in the face, think Arlong's Bullets.